Your voice, your vote. This is a special election edition of Pronews 7 with the Panhandle's most experienced news team. Here's Jay Ritchie.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Your Voice, Your Vote, the results we have so far this election night. Let's get things started with the vote for President of the United States in Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. No surprise that Texas and Oklahoma were projected early for Republican Mitt Romney. New Mexico was always labeled as leaning toward Democrat Barack Obama. We cannot, though, make any projection in that direction right now. The electoral vote tally we have so far from ABC News is Obama with 173 and Romney with 174. 270 are needed to win the White House. This graphic is Texas also had, we're one behind now, Texas also had a Senate race this year to fill the seat given up by Republican Kay Bailey Hutchison. Ted Cruz, who surprised David Dewhurst in the primary earlier this year, continued his run for that seat today with a decisive lead over Paul Sadler and two other candidates. We're way ahead on these graphics, so we apologize. We're a couple away on that one. The last one you saw before we went to that one, in the race for the U.S. House here in Amarillo, there it is. Republican Mac Thornberry faced two opponents this year, but for one thing, a Democratic candidate was nowhere to be found, and it was no surprise then that Thornberry was reelected to another term today. Now a repeat race for state representative in District 87 in Texas. It was incumbent Republican For Price versus Democratic challenger Abel Bosquez once again, just as it was a few years ago, to find David Swinford's successor. And once again, For Price wins and will return to Austin. Mac Thornberry and For Price are among the people watching and celebrating the numbers from this election night out at Ruby Tequila's on Georgia this evening, and Pronews 7's Lindsay Steiner and Kendall Lee are with them. Ladies?
We are here live at the GOP Watch Party. Joining me now is the projected winner tonight, Congressman Mac Thornberry. Mac, how are you feeling tonight?
Well, I'm grateful to the people for as far as my race goes. I'm still anxious about the national race and how all of those are going to come out.
Now, what are some of your big issues that you're going to be looking at and pushing forward with?
Well, the crucial issue for the country is getting our fiscal house in order so the economy can grow, so job creation can start. And I think it's going to be an intense next several months in Washington trying to sort that out once we know the results of this evening.
All right, Congressman, thank you so much. Kendall?
Now, I'm here with House District 87 candidate For Price. The numbers are looking very much in your favor right now. If you do indeed win this seat, what kind of things are you hoping to strive for over the next 2 years?
Well, we're going to continue the hard work that we've maintained over the past 2 years. We want to focus on our natural resources, our water supplies across the state of Texas. We want to improve public education and strengthen community colleges, and really just make sure that we achieve what we need to prepare for the growth the state is going to experience in terms of its population. So we're going to continue that hard work. I think this is a vote of confidence for what we've done and what we should continue to do in the future.
All right, Ford, thank you very much. Jay, back to you.
All right, Kendall and Lindsay, thank you very much. Meanwhile, the Democrats have their watch party going on at Fernando's restaurant off Coulter. Our reporter on the scene there tonight, Pronews 7's Mari Samaripas. Mari?
We're live here at Panhandle at the Democratic Watch Party, and joining me now is Abel Bosquez, who is running against incumbent For Price for the Texas State Representative of District 87. As of now, Price is leading in numbers, but only some of the precincts have reported. If elected, Mr. Bosquez, what issues would you like to address within our community?
Well, issues that I would like to address to our community is the education funds and jobs. Education fund is very important because it seems like the state of Texas takes money away from our children to balance the budget. And jobs, I would see more jobs coming into this area, and I would do that by putting vocational classes back into the high schools. Not everybody goes to college, and they would be able to join the workforce right after high school with a trade under their belt.
And how is this going to benefit our community if we have people going to school and getting jobs?
Well, it would benefit our area because more people would stay in the area. A lot of the students graduate from high school and they leave the area, and we need them to stay here.
Thank you, Mr. Bosquez. Reporting live from the Democratic Party, Mari Samaripas, Pronews 7. Jake, back to you.
Marty, thank you. Back to the Texas legislature for results from another race right now. This one was for state senate in District 28, where incumbent Republican Robert Duncan faced off against Libertarian candidate M.J. Smith, and Duncan has a commanding lead at this time of the night. Amarillo State Senator Kel Sulliger ran unopposed, so he'll be going back to Austin, and we asked him what his priorities will be coming up this next session.
Our focus probably is on issues of public education, the accountability system, and career and technical education, and our system is simply ripe for some advances in those areas.
Austin will take on a slightly different shape come January. For perspective on that and some other election issues tonight, Pronews 7's Lisa Schmidt is with WT political science professor David Roush. Lisa?
Thank you. Jay, Dr. Roush, you've been with us here all night watching the elections and the returns. Jay just mentioned Austin. Statewide, it looks like Republicans are losing some seats in Austin, down from that supermajority.
Right. And the supermajority is an important, almost psychological, but even some legislative process boundary, because it gives them the power to pretty much run anything through the legislature. Mm-hmm. Now they have to work a little bit more with the Democrats on the other side of the aisle to get legislation passed. Part of the reason why the Republicans have lost some seats was retirements as well as redistricting. Mm-hmm. That always affects the balance of power.
It always makes a big change for sure. You know, something that we saw, maybe an interesting trend or something like that, a third-party candidate, will it ever be viable? You know, there were a few other guys on the ballot this time around.
Sure, and a few other women, too. Yeah. But the challenge for the third parties would be how to stake out an area that's not covered by the Democrats or Republicans. I've said in my classes and things that the place for a third party would be between the Democrats and Republicans. Yeah. As the Democrats move to the left and the Republicans move to the right, there's a large population of Americans in the middle. Mm-hmm. And I think many Americans would say in this election, a lot of those people in the middle were ignored. And so maybe it's right for a party that stands for everything and nothing, because they're in the middle.
You know, that makes a lot of sense. You know, nationally, it's very interesting. It's so tight for the presidential race tonight. The House and the Senate look to be status quo, but with so many people, you know, in our neck of the woods, we hear about opposing Obamacare. What does this mean? You know, it's so tight.
Well, it shouldn't have been tight. There should have been an overwhelming. If we if we had this election back in 2010, it probably wouldn't have been as tight as it is today. It just shows that President Obama is a pretty good campaigner. He's able to organize and get people moving in his direction. And I think it's also because we hear a lot. We're very much not hearing positive things about President Obama, so it becomes a part of life that we just sort of assume that everybody else opposes President Obama.
In your neck of the woods. Right?
In our neck of the woods.
That's for sure. Yes. All right. Thank you, Dr. Roush, for being here with us all night. We'll send it back to Jay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Lisa and David, we thank you. Over to New Mexico we go now for that state's U.S. Senate race. Democrat Jeff Bingaman decided to retire instead of running for a sixth term, and these four candidates were vying for that post. Unfortunately, at this point in the evening, we can only report there's a hang-up in the election return process in Albuquerque, so we cannot present any numbers for you right now. Of course, the same is true for several more races we care about. 2 U.S. House seats were up for grabs in eastern New Mexico. In District 2, Republican Steve Pierce is the incumbent. He has 2 challengers. Again, no results at this time. In District 3, Democrat Ben Ray Lujan is the incumbent. Jefferson Byrd is running against him. We'll have to wait on those numbers, too. In New Mexico State House District 63, a position held now by Democrat George Dodge Jr. Stephen Hansen's hoping to unseat him. Look for those numbers sometime in the morning. Now, up to the Oklahoma Panhandle, the race for U.S. House from District 3, where the incumbent is Republican Frank Lucas. These are final numbers. Lucas is going back to Washington. And in Oklahoma State Senate, District 27, Republican A. Bryce Marlatt is the incumbent, and he has defeated Tommy Nicholson. Back in Amarillo, there was a race for constable in Potter County Precinct 4, pitting Republican Juan Gonzalez against Democrat Idella Thomas Jackson. Most of the precincts are in. Thomas Jackson has the lead. Texas Board of Education District 15 covers 77 counties, including the Panhandle. Marty Rowley of Amarillo was running against Stephen Schaefersman of Midland, and Rowley has this commanding lead. The High Plains Underground Water Conservation District was electing 2 members. Mike Beauchamp faced Carol Cook in Precinct 3. Beauchamp won. Precinct 4, which featured Robert Meyer and Lynn Tate, that vote is incomplete. Can we roll on to that next one? Yes, that just shows the incomplete vote, so now we have it official. Plenty of sheriff's races this year. For Sheriff of Collingsworth County, Jerry Allen is the winner. It was Thomas Heck versus Ernest Neal for Hall County Sheriff, and Thomas Heck won. Over to Hardeman County, where the sheriff's contest goes to Mance Nelson. There was heated race for that post in Sherman County, and Joe Powell won. Sherman County also had a question about legalizing alcohol sales. Yes was the answer to that question. The sheriff's race in Cimarron County, Oklahoma goes to Bob White, and Ricky Lawrence will be the new sheriff in Cottle County. This year, as never before, people flock to social media to get their political messages out. And Pro News 7's Travis Ruiz has been following the elections in real time via social media and has some of your reactions. Travis?
Jay, social media is by far the single most popular way that we are communicating. It's word of mouth on steroids, and when it comes to the elections and politics, it's changing the way that we voice our opinions. In fact, we just asked on Facebook, how are you getting your election results? Take a look right here. Someone says Channel 7 and Google, we like to see that. Internet and cell phone, chatting and texting, Facebook, ABC live feed. As you can see, a lot of those not from TV, but in fact the internet. And it's a continuing trend that we're seeing over and over, social media playing a huge and pivotal role. And as you know, we saw a new study, a new statistic today that 63% of people are mentioning Barack Obama more than Mitt Romney. Certainly a huge, big difference between those two. So what are the issues that you are voting on right at home? We asked you on Facebook earlier today. Here are some of your responses. Janice says Obamacare, taxes, and military cuts. And Dave has a great message. He says, not so much an issue, but it's a right. I served for 20 years in the military, making sacrifices every day to keep the rights and privileges we have today. And one of them is the right to vote. Eric says he voted 11 days ago. Of course, a lot of people did early voting. And Merrick said the future of our nation. So nonetheless, social media playing a huge role. Don't forget, Pro News 7 is everywhere, on air, online, and on the go. We are updating the information on our website as it comes in. We're also live streaming right now at connectamarillo.com. Live in the studio, Travis Ruiz, Pro News 7.
Travis, thanks. More election results across the bottom of your screen as our newscast continues. Plus, we continue our Honor Flight segments with a celebration of service and love. Stay tuned for that right after Brian James' forecast.
Well, thankfully, we didn't have to worry about anything weather-wise across the high plains and actually across most of the nation on this election day. Now, as we head to the next few days, the temperatures will stay warm, but there is a nasty, strong cold front set to arrive by the time we get the second half of the weekend. More on that coming up. Take a look outside right now with our sky cam shot. Looking off toward the north, all is quiet here in the Central Plains. Temperature in downtown, 58 degrees with a southeast wind only a couple miles an hour. Full details on the rest of the week's forecast coming up next.